Bonjour, my name is Doug with L'Amour de Paris Photography in Paris. I am here with Naim, the Parisian Celebrant, and today we're going to share the best tips for planning your Paris elopement. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
So let's welcome Naim. Is it that the correct pronunciation? Yes?
Actually, it is, and you're probably the only person in France or the entire world to get it in the first place. So
All
thank you
right.
so much for doing this, first of all.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business and how you got started officiating elopements and weddings.
Yes, so I started by coincidence, really. I have a hospitality background. I used to work in brasseries and venues. And in the year 2015, I was working in Spain in a big venue, and we're doing weddings. We were catering actually for
Huh.
weddings, and by coincidence, the officiant, the person who were officiating the weddings, he was a regular. He was coming to our venue every day and week. So he asked me to replace him,
Okay.
and at first I was not very keen to do this,
Right.
but I said yes, and he trained me,
Mhm.
and everything went fine.
Hmm.
So I had some kind of aha moment at this
Right.
moment because I found it very easy,
Okay.
and I decided just to do it. When I came back to France in the year 2018, 19, I don't remember exactly,
Mhm.
I decided to do it in Paris, and this is the reason I'm here today now.
All right. Well, that's the perfect segue for my next question. So, why Paris, and what do you think makes Paris so great for an elopement?
Well, first of all, I'm a Parisian, so I'm born and raised in Paris. So we're very familiar. French people, we really like the international vibe and
Right.
clientele. Uh, Paris has a very special vibe,
Mhm.
very, very special, and I can feel it with all the couples who are coming up here, especially American people, Asian people, people
Right.
from all around the world. Paris has a special vibe that we
Mhm.
tend to forget as French people.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Um, the thing is, we're born and raised here, like French, Parisian, and
Mhm.
we tend to go into this routine that everyone who lives in a city just
Uh,
you just get around it. But when we work with American people, Asian people, Italian people,
mhm.
foreigners,
Right.
we tend to see in their eyes what we tend
Ah,
to forget.
okay. Interesting.
That's the main reason why Paris is so special,
Mhm.
is that when you get there as a foreigner, you make people who live here remember where
Right.
they are.
Yeah. I have noticed personally a big difference between American attitudes and French attitudes towards people getting married. For example, in the US, if we're outside photographing a bride and groom and a car is driving by, they often honk and shout, "Don't do it."
Oh, really?
Whereas here in France,
Wow.
unequivocally, everyone claps, "Bravo, félicitations." I've even had the bus driver stop and yell out while we were doing portraits, "Bravo." So I think there's that little bit of uh, love is in the air sort of thing with
I
Paris.
agree with that, and yeah, I could not agree more. This reminds me of a short story. We had an elopement in the Tuileries Gardens,
Hmm.
which is a very common place that you probably
Right.
know. And it was very early in the morning because we're doing elopement
Hmm.
ceremonies in the morning. And the couple was getting married, and the ceremony was going on. And suddenly we had this class
Hmm.
of kids just coming up, and they
Right.
started clapping
Huh.
and like shouting and saying
Really?
what you were saying, like
Uh,
bravo,
uh-huh.
congratulations. And the bride was so surprised. She was like, "Oh wow, like how,
All
like
right.
why, like."
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's.
this is normal for us. We have this kind of French attitude, French DNA that we
Mhm.
like to celebrate, and
Right.
we're always looking forward to something positive.
So that brings us to what type of couples typically elope. Have you noticed any similarities between your couples that elope versus having a full wedding?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. What I realized is more and more like younger people
Hmm.
tend to elope.
Okay.
I'm not saying like you don't have to be 18 or 20 years
Right.
old, like, but young-minded, and
Uh,
like many people don't want to go into the complication of like getting married and wedding planner
I see.
and all the hassle
Right.
of doing all going to all the
They just
details.
want to get
Should
to the
we
good stuff.
exactly should we invite this person, that person?
Hmm.
Where should they sit? Where, how, where
Right.
was the budget? the impression that I have is that people don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on that.
Right.
And people who elope, they're just here for fun and
Nice.
light, and they don't want to get so serious.
Right.
I
So
mean,
much more stress-free
yeah,
with the elopement
stress-free,
planning
absolutely.
versus the full wedding, but equal amount of joy in the end.
Yes, this is a key word,
Yeah.
stress-free.
Awesome. So, what are the main things that an officiant such as yourself provides? Do you write the vows for the couple? Do most couples write their own vows? Kind of what do your services encompass?
Like I always think and say to my couple, I'm not the protagonist.
Hmm.
You are. So I will be a part of your wedding,
Hmm.
obviously. I will be the person conducting the ceremony,
Right.
but I'm not the main character.
Hmm.
So I tend to ask them a lot of questions
Okay.
and really ask them what they want, because every wedding is different.
Right.
Every ceremony, every couple is different and has their own vibe, as you probably know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, start by asking them a lot of questions, and when they get into the details of what they want and how they see their day, we get into the details and intricacies of their vows. For example, the vows, most of the time they are like either personal or standard.
Right.
We're going to this because many brides, but many couples, but mostly brides are quite nervous. They think they will be nervous, but they're not on the day. But they think they will be nervous, so they're not. They think they will not be ready to speak out their vows personally and read it out loud.
Right.
So we tend to go into the standard vows, which is much more like repeat after me.
Okay.
But much less personal.
Right.
This is the two main things that we're doing with the vows. I'm not writing the vows for the couples.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm against that.
Okay.
Especially for this reason, because I get to know them better during the ceremony process of creation, but I don't know them personally, and moreover, I don't know their story at all. Like,
so if I understand, by asking them questions and really getting to know them, they're almost getting to know themselves a little better and figuring out what they want to say in their vows, and then they can curate it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. They do that. I give them just little advices of my experience of what works. For example, it's much better writing vows the day before the wedding. This is small details that I remember now, and I just give them advices on what to do.
Okay.
But the number one rule of a wedding is that the ceremony and the wedding, they have to be very happy with everything.
Right.
So I will guide them, tell them what works, but in the end, the final word will be theirs.
Awesome. Especially I do, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Awesome. So what would you say makes an elopement different from a full wedding? Would you say that there's a typical number of guests for elopement before it transitions into a full wedding?
It's really not about about the number of guests. Obviously, an elopement tend to be like just the two of them, or maybe a few guests and everything. But it's much more about the experience and the meaning. It doesn't really matter on the number of guests or stuff like that. It would be much more about the experience and why are they here and the reasons why did they choose to be here that day.
Right. Beautiful. How far in advance should a couple start planning?
I've been working with 24-hour notice. You know that?
Really? That's almost Las Vegas style.
So the idea is I can get ready very quickly. So this is what I start with when people book. Yeah, so when I say this to couple, the fact that I can work with 24-hour notice, they tend to relax much more. And they're like, oh, okay, we have plenty of time. Like the wedding is 6 months away. So we're fine.
Right.
I work very quickly because once I get their answers and their questionnaires and all that, I can work like very quickly.
Okay.
So how far in advance? There's no rule.
Okay.
Except if you want to get married in the next 24 hours. But it's always better to take the time, because the more time you have, the more like this is what I say to all my couples. When you're going to hear my voice and meet me in video, you will automatically start to picture me talking in front of your guests.
Got it.
And ideas will start flowing in your brain. And when you will decide to read the script of my ceremony, you can decide then, oh, I really like that, or this is too serious, we should make it more fun, or this is too light, we want something more
tailor
solemn.
it to their personalities perfectly.
This is the main thing. That's why it's so important.
Okay. Would you say that there's an average amount of time that people book you in advance, like 6 months, a year?
Yeah, no, this is what you say is true.
Mhm.
Most of the time, it's 12 months in
12
advance.
months, okay,
Yeah.
even for the elopements.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
around 12 months. Like,
Right.
oh, next year we're getting married. Like, there is a wave of bookings in September
I see. Okay.
and January,
All
which
right.
is when people make plans
So
most
that's
of
the
the
busy
time.
booking season is September and January are when most people start securing their dates.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So from 24 hours to 6 to 12 months is your window, but September and January are when you really want to get on the ball and make sure you book him before he gets fully booked. As far as other vendors and everything, would you suggest a particular order in which they book their vendors, or do you notice a particular trend in the order that they're booking their vendors? Does it typically start with you, or is there a planner, or then there's photographer, florist, maybe other things that they book? But do you notice a particular trend in which order couples should be looking at their vendors?
Yeah, I observed the trend that I
Mhm.
always come last because
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
which is fine by me, but I just realized that because people tend to recommend me a lot, like
Okay.
photographers and planners
Mhm.
and all the vendors,
Right.
but I never have the opportunity to recommend anyone most of the time because they
Right.
choose me last. They're like, oh yeah, we need some guy
Oh,
who's
it's
just talking, you know.
someone to tell us what to do. Say
So
email
this is the
customer.
yeah. Most of the time, the trend is this. It's planner if they have if they're
Okay.
looking for a venue.
Right.
They would hire a planner. If
Mhm.
they don't want a planner, they would get the venue first,
Okay.
and then they will go into the details of like
Right.
flowers, makeup,
I see.
suits,
Mhm.
dress,
Okay.
rings, and then maybe some officiant just to
Ah,
say a few
right.
words. This is usually the trend.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Any advice that you would give to couples in booking vendors? Anything in particular they should look for? And how important, if at all, is it that all the vendors know each other?
This is a great question actually because um, I realized that the time that you put into the conception of your wedding, if you don't have a planner or if your vendors don't communicate with each
Mhm.
other, it's going to be much more stressful,
Okay.
and you will waste a lot of energy.
Mm.
So it's always important to get to know each other. Like sometimes, like you propose, you have a full package, you know,
Right.
of all the services and only one or two persons to communicate with. This is
Mhm.
great, but this is not the only type of service. There's others. Like most of the time, I tend to collaborate with everyone involved. In my questionnaire, I ask the couples to share with me all the details of
Mhm.
their photographer,
Okay.
planner, everyone involved, just
Mhm.
so I can get into the phone with them and or
Right.
email them quickly about the details. Not having to be
Mhm.
the couple doesn't have to be the bottleneck of communication,
Ah,
and just end up being a secretary.
right.
You know,
Right.
like, oh, this is
They
I'm
can
planning
focus
my
on the important parts of getting married.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so I collaborate with all the
Mhm.
vendors. Um, yeah, that's very important because you want your day to go very smoothly.
Mhm.
This day usually goes very quick,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yes. I recall
uh,
my wedding day as well.
so I always tell the couples there is only one rule with me is that you have to be happy with everything,
Mhm.
and I recommend you the vendors
Right.
that you're gonna hire. They have to be yes persons. They have to
Okay.
be like, yeah, we're gonna make it happen. Doesn't
Right.
matter what you want. I mean, if you don't ask for something extravagant, obviously, but we can't
Right.
even do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So yeah, everyone has to be on board,
Mhm.
and this is mentality. This is like I said before, I have a hospitality background.
Right.
I've been serving people. I've been dealing with people. I've
Mhm.
been managing people
Right.
for most of my professional life,
Mhm.
and that was the rule. That was making it all work. You know, very important to have people who are on board with
Mhm.
you when you have a project like a wedding.
Well said. So Paris, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I think the more and more my wife traveled throughout Europe, the more we realize why everyone says Paris is so beautiful, because it just truly is. So with that being said, are there any particular locations that you really love, or which locations would you recommend for an elopement?
Uh, Paris is great.
Mhm.
Paris is lovely. I know it sounds easy to say that, but it's true. When you walk around Paris, you can literally picture yourself inside
Mhm.
a outside museum,
Absolutely.
full of history and places and plaques all over the wall
Mhm.
saying this writer has been living there,
Right.
this movie maker is born here, etc.,
Mhm.
etc. So it makes it very easy to find places. Like you have landmarks, obviously.
Right.
You have the Eiffel Tower,
Of
which is
course.
a best-selling place. You
Right.
know,
The
it sells
classic.
itself.
Yeah.
But it's not the only one. You have like tomorrow, for example, I have a special vow renewal with a couple. They wanted the Sacré-Cœur, which is
Okay.
do you know this place?
Yeah,
Obviously,
the
right?
Great White Church up by
Exactly.
Montmartre.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
on top of the city. And this place is very touristic,
Mhm.
but we don't use it that much for
Right.
ceremonies. But yeah, I really like the place.
Okay.
There's a small park
Mhm.
right behind it.
Yes, I know
Was
the one you're
great view.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful view.
and yeah, beautiful views,
Uh-huh.
especially for pictures. So this is a place that I really like. Then you have the Jardin des Tuileries, the Tuileries Gardens,
Tuileries,
which is a
yes.
classic.
Uh-huh.
You have the Luxembourg Garden. I mean, we didn't invent these places. They're like you have to go there, and when you
Right.
get there, you feel like doing a ceremony because it looks like a movie, and
Mhm.
people like you, photographers and videographers,
Right.
are making it even more beautiful. I mean, I'm aware of the beauty
Mhm.
of my city and all these landmarks, but
Right.
all the time when I see the results
Mhm.
of photographers and videographers, I'm always amazed. I'm like, I was there, really? Like,
Yeah,
we
I
tend
have
to
to admit,
work.
Paris does make our job a little bit easier.
Yeah, well, you guys are very skilled as well.
Right.
Like as an industry, all of you, like making it very like different
Mhm.
and lights and all that. I'm not a professional,
Right.
obviously, so I'm easily surprised, but it's
Yeah.
really nice.
Do you have a top three locations that you like that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, of course.
Or?
Yeah, the Eiffel Tower is a classic
Of course. Right.
because we're French and because we're in Paris. You know, it's like you have to get
Right.
there.
There you
It's
go.
this
Yeah.
is it. If you're not in the Eiffel Tower, you never really been to Paris.
Right.
So the good thing with the Eiffel Tower is that there are many places where you can
Okay.
get great shots
Right.
of it. You have the Birakem Bridge,
Mhm.
obviously. You have the Trocadero very
Mhm.
early in the morning. You can get to the river right below over there,
Right.
next to the
Yes.
Seine,
Uh-huh.
which is Port des Billets. There are plenty of other angles that you can get.
Mhm.
So I would say that the Eiffel Tower is a
Is
sure bet.
the number one?
Yeah,
Of
number
course.
one. Even in terms of numbers,
Right.
people really like it. So
And then
we have
after
this
the
place.
Eiffel Tower, if someone's wanting something very Parisian but not quite as obvious.
Yeah, the Medici Fontaine
Okay.
in the Luxembourg.
In Jardin de Luxembourg, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
this one is very nice,
Right.
especially in the summer. It's full of people
Right.
from 9 a.m. So you have to go
Just
there
get in a little earlier and
yeah,
it's peaceful and quiet.
earlier
Yeah.
and much better lights.
Right.
But you have plenty of vegetations and it's all greens and flowers and
Right.
flowers are blooming over there.
Mhm.
It's really good. So I really like that. And there's
Okay.
the gentle flow of the fountain
Yeah.
right behind you.
A little bit of a
Gives
natural ambiance.
Yes, gives a really nice atmosphere.
Right.
If you can get that on video, it's even better. Um, what else could I say? You have, in terms of places, I really like as well. The Louvre is also a classic. The
Yeah.
Arc of the Louvre. Do you
Okay.
see?
Yeah.
This one is now in the works
Right.
for a long time. But I used to, when I started, I used to do a lot there.
Mhm.
I don't remember the name exactly. It's the Carousel, the Louvre Carousel.
Right, yeah. So now that we've talked about locations, what would you say as far as best times of day for an elopement and what times, if any, should be avoided?
Yes, this is very special
Mhm.
because it's normal. When you come to Paris and you want to elope there, you're have this idealistic vision of the streets of Paris will be empty just like in the pictures, and we will be
Right.
just fine eating croissants and drinking café au lait,
Uh-huh.
which is slightly the truth, but you have
Right.
to make some adjustments.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, mostly about the time.
Okay.
If you're checking your pictures, your videos
Mhm.
in Paris of weddings like this is a typical
Right.
very early morning
Okay.
shooting session
course.
and ceremony because
Yeah, this does not happen at 5 p.m. or at
no,
sunset.
no, this you have to understand, and it's
Yeah.
important. It's a good question once again.
Right.
You have to really trust your vendors when they're telling you that you need to get there basically at 6 a.m.
Right, yeah. So
And 6 a.m. ready means that the
hair
bride
and
has
makeup
to do
is
the
4 a.m., right?
yes,
Yes,
hair and makeup probably around 4:30 a.m. in
right.
your hotel room.
Yeah.
This sounds crazy, but
Right. But
it's
the results,
exactly.
yeah.
If this is exactly this, if you want this type of results, or your photos are going to look great,
Right.
uh, this is the price, the small price to pay.
Yeah.
And yeah, the early morning ceremonies are important, especially in public space like Trocadero, which is probably the busiest place in the world.
Of course.
When you get to 8:30 a.m., you have this constant flow of buses and
Right.
tourists and traffic and
Oh, yeah.
vendors and street vendors trying to sell you everything. So
Yeah. A
you
little
don't
bit of
want
magic
that.
is gone after that point.
That's the problem. Once again, I never insist. I always tell exactly what will happen, like I said,
Right.
to my couples. And sometimes people are not very
Let
worried
them
about
decide,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and but
Kind of a built-in audience, if you will.
yeah, big audience. I mean, it's always like you said before. At the end, it's just going to be busier.
Right.
People will just congratulate you and shout. So it's another atmosphere for your wedding ceremony. I always recommend empty streets and lights like this because yeah, much better lights and less crowds makes the moment a bit more special.
Okay.
This is for public space. Now, if you're looking to get your ceremony in a hotel,
Oh, okay.
this will not be a problem
Right.
at all because you're in your hotel room. You just get a room with views such
Right.
as the Shangri-La or the Marignan. Like
Yeah.
plenty of hotels are providing this type of service. So usually this will ease the process much more because you don't need to empty Paris from
Of
all
course.
its visitors.
Right.
You're in your hotel room. You just do it whenever you want. So you're much more flexible
Right.
if you're in a hotel or a private venue.
Yeah. So I know when you say hotel room, some of the Americans might be thinking, I'm not getting married in a hotel room if I'm going to Paris. But I've seen the pictures. I know the location. So speak to a little bit for the hotels where you typically will do an elopement. It's not your average hotel room and it's not your average view, correct?
No. Yeah.
So which
Absolutely.
hotels are you referring to, and kind of describe the view of where you're standing and what the couple is seeing behind you in this hotel room?
Yeah, no, it's a good clarification. When you book a hotel room for your wedding, it's almost the price of your private venue in the US.
Okay.
You know, depending on your budget, obviously. But when when you book a hotel room, you literally you buy space and time
Okay.
in Paris. Which is going to block all the rest from like anything. So this is what you want to do if you're looking for privacy and maybe a few guests.
Right.
Typical places to do that is the Shangri-La,
Okay.
which is a very nice hotel, luxury hotel in Paris. And you have the Hotel Marignan as well, near the Champs-Élysées. They provide they have a room that where if you check out my Instagram and all the other celebrants in Paris, this is a place that we're going a lot. Even the room numbers, we know it. You know, it's a room with view to the Eiffel Tower. You can decorate the room, the outside. You have even the hotel staff helping you to do that.
Nice.
So Shangri-La, Marignan, there's plenty of others. But yeah, the good thing is that you have privacy. You're renting space and time, and no one is going to rush you. So you can take your hour and a half to make your ceremony. Be with your family or your guests, just having a drink of champagne after your ceremony, maybe a photo shoot. And then you can just decide what to do next. You can go around your sessions like what you do, like 2 hours around strolling in Paris, this kind of thing.
Okay. So when you book one of these hotels, you are paying a premium typically, but you're also getting the luxury of privacy, convenience, and a magnificent view typically on a terrace or balcony with the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
So you get all the classics, but privacy and everything.
Yeah, and the hotel staff all around Paris, they are very helpful. They are working with you. They have like an event person, event manager, coordinator. They have hotel staff, and everyone is looking around for you. So this is something that you probably want to do in your wedding day because you just want to focus on the good thing. And this is a day that will pass by very quickly once again, unfortunately. So you want to have the best options and just go around with the flow and enjoy every moment.
Right, very much agree. Brilliant advice. So, are there any particular days that you suggest that are better than others? You know, in the U.S., when you think wedding, you think Friday or Saturday night, maybe Sunday if it's a Jewish ceremony. But here, I've noticed ceremonies, elopements, weddings happen almost any day of the week. So, are there any that are better than others?
There's no real, as soon as the season is here, usually around March till October,
Right.
um, it could be any day,
Mhm.
any time. Depends really on your booking and what
Right.
you want.
The world is your oyster,
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely.
Very good. So we've talked times a day. How about times of the year? Are there peak times of the year, times of the year they should avoid? What's been your experience with that?
So most of the time, weddings are happening in the summer season
Okay.
because this is like the traditional
Mhm.
time of the year where people travel.
Right. So this would
Um,
be like June through August?
yeah,
Okay.
May, even May,
Even May? Okay.
May through August. You have to be aware that June and July are usually very warm months.
Right.
But yeah, this is something that is quite important when, especially when you're a bride, you have full hair and makeup for your day. You don't want to spend hours in
Right.
the sun like for too long.
Of course.
Um, some ceremonies usually last a bit longer because of
Mhm.
speeches or rituals or anything.
Mhm.
And this is always one of my advice to the brides and grooms is, of course, we're not gonna sort out your ceremony just in 10 minutes, obviously
Right.
not. But if you're going into the time frame of 45 minutes an hour, you will
Mhm.
tend to notice people in the audience are
Right.
just waiting to have a glass of champagne. So
Right.
they
Right.
really love you,
Yeah.
but still, they're like it's too long.
Right.
So yeah, be aware of the heat.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that would be one of the benefits of doing it at sunrise early in the morning as well, because then you're avoiding the hottest part of the day here.
Absolutely, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I found in Paris, the heat here tends to hit late afternoon,
Whoa.
like not until 4 or 5 p.m., whereas back home in Louisiana, it's 12 noon, 1 p.m. is our hottest part of the day.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
definitely benefit from the early morning.
Yeah, early morning is a good, very good choice.
Yeah. Are there any months that you would suggest avoiding in Paris for an elopement? And I guess there might be a difference between, say, an outdoor elopement with the Tuileries, the Eiffel Tower, versus the terrace of the
Mhm.
Shangri-La or an interior space.
If you're looking for an outside
Hmm.
ceremony, such as the Tuileries Garden or the Eiffel Tower,
Hmm.
I really suggest to think about it if you're planning to come here in January,
Hmm.
because we're doing ceremonies,
Right.
but we're advising our brides, especially
Mhm.
because they tend to be less covered,
Right. Yeah.
than the guys.
It's gonna be a little cold.
That's the thing.
Right.
I've seen, unfortunately, I've seen many brides shaking a little bit,
Yeah. Absolutely.
during the ceremonies, and of course, it's something that they will forget.
Right.
But these tend to be not very comfortable.
Right.
So comfy shoes, comfy,
Yeah.
very like warm clothes. When
Right.
if you're heading to Paris in January, we will be able to create a ceremony for
Of
you.
course.
But yeah, I highly suggest that.
Considering another month other than January.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah,
It's
I
better.
100% agree with you. Unless you're going to wear a very long sleeve dress, a wrap, and everything else,
And just undress just for the ceremony and then just come back to it.
yeah,
It's fine. I mean, we had a lot of fun,
right.
but it's sometimes not what you picture
I understand.
for your wedding.
Right. That actually segues perfectly into my next question regarding weather. While the summer months and everything are beautiful in Paris, there is the possibility of rain from time to time. And I know for people getting married, they tend to check the weather starting a month out. What do you suggest to couples on how they should plan or prepare for rainy weather or things that might not be the perfect wedding day as far as weather?
This is a big consideration, especially when the ceremony is taking place on the outside.
Right.
So we always have a plan B.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter the location.
Okay.
We always think about a plan B was very near the main location,
Right.
just in case something happened and you have to go. I've done ceremonies where even the plan B was not possible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
this happened, and we've been working like with the couple, and they've been very easy
Mhm.
to deal with,
Right.
and they were like very like relaxed people, and they said, you know what, give us some umbrellas, and we're just gonna
Make it happen.
make it happen.
Right.
And we could have been into another third location, fourth
Mhm.
location, but this,
Right.
you know what, it was pouring rain,
Right.
like literally crazy, but we just did it on the outside, and I was wet. I have to say. But yeah, I mean, it's not a storm. It's
Right.
not gonna kill you.
Mhm.
But yeah, we always have a plan B.
Okay.
Whereas it's under a bridge,
Mhm.
maybe like him, for example,
Okay.
or just to go into the more covered place
Right.
in the place. So there's
Cover
always a
up
plan
an
B.
archway, a passage, or something.
Yes.
But there's always a plan B when working with someone experienced.
Yes, and
Right.
the fact that you're working with vendors, you're
Mhm.
probably gonna hire a car
Right.
for you. So there, it's very flexible, especially in the early morning.
Mhm.
Everything packs up. If you're having your ceremony on the outside in a very not busy
Mhm.
time of day, there would be no traffic. So
Right.
if
Good
suddenly
point.
it's full of rain and storm,
Mhm.
we're just gonna pack everything, which is 3 minutes,
Right.
and
Head to
then
plan B,
yeah,
seat cover, and still get married.
absolutely.
Awesome. Uh, you touched on this just a little while ago, but legalities of getting married in France for Americans or people that are not French. Speak just briefly about that, and is there anything that Americans need to know when coming to get married in France?
Yeah. Uh, Many couples are
Mhm.
contacting us and they're kind of confused, which is totally
Mhm.
understandable. They tend to be confused because they say, I want to get married in Paris,
Right.
which is having a ceremony symbolic because we're already
Mhm.
getting married legally at home,
Okay.
and not getting married like the official paper of the registry of the office.
Right.
This is not possible for an
Mhm.
American or any foreigners to come here and just get married
Mhm.
legally and go back home.
Right.
You have to have a living proof, like you have to work here. You have to.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
not going to go into the.
To the French bureaucracy.
Oh my God!
That
Yeah,
will keep us happy about getting married and everything
no.
else.
So you don't need anything
Mhm.
if your plan is to get married symbolically.
Okay.
If you're looking to have a ceremony, private ceremony in a
Mhm.
hotel or an elopement,
Right.
this will not go into the any legal
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Right.
So this is a good point.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't recommend going to the the
Don't ask the French administration
no,
about it, right?
no.
Yeah,
This is not something you want and not something you need to do.
right. Yeah. Okay, so basically, to sum up, there is nothing legal that happens in France, and nothing that you have to do to come over and have your symbolic ceremony with the Eiffel Tower or any of the famous Parisian landmarks. You will handle all of that stuff back home, stateside, and then just come over here, worry about all the pretty stuff, the party, the festivities, and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Cool. Much easier that way.
Yes.
So, what about same-sex couples and elopements here? Are there anything? Is there anything special that they need to know? And have you worked with those couples in the past?
Yeah, I've been
Mhm.
working with a lot of them actually.
Mhm.
Just because they sounds very crazy to say that, but because they wanted me to do it.
Okay.
They say you inspire us like
Uh-huh.
openness and diversity and
Right.
all that. I don't know how this translates to me because
Okay.
I've never communicated that way. But of course, I'm not against it at all.
Hmm.
I really never disagree to have a same-sex wedding, of course, and I'm
Mhm.
very happy to have them.
Right.
And same-sex wedding people, they can come to me and just get to know me and talk to me about their projects, and that would be it. I
Mhm.
mean, there's nothing else to say
Amazing.
about this
Right.
topic.
Yeah.
So,
Love is love.
absolutely.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I think we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but as far as incorporating special ceremonies within the elopement to make it more personal, what are some things that you see rather often, or some of the more unique ones that you've experienced, just to make that elopement a little more special and unique to the couple?
You're probably talking about rituals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything special that they incorporated into the ceremony to make it different from your typical elopement?
I work with a very structured
Mhm.
script,
Okay.
but I always say to my couple that this is not something that you have to follow. This is something that you have to rely on just
Mhm.
to understand the steps
Your
of
basic
what's gonna,
guidelines,
yeah,
right?
the pace. But it's not final, so you
Mhm.
can add anything you want. And I've been, I've been delivering doves.
Wow.
Do you say that delivering? Like
You
launching,
release the
release? Thank
doves,
you.
yes.
Yeah, release doves.
Uh-huh.
So imagine how far I've been.
Okay, yeah.
Something that I really like is the wine box ceremony. I don't know if you're familiar with
No,
that.
tell me about
This
this as
is
a lover of wine.
yeah, this involves wine, so everyone's
Okay,
happy
yeah.
first of all, and usually it's this is a ritual that I have for big weddings
Mhm.
because the audience is very important on that one.
Right.
It's not an act, but you will
Okay.
get it. It's basically the couple. I ask the couple to write each other's letters, love letters,
Okay.
on the day before the wedding,
All right.
which is not vows. It's much
Right.
more like,
Just
why
a
did I,
personal letter from
yeah,
me to you, sort of thing.
why am I getting married with you tomorrow?
Okay.
Why did I fall in love with you? What am I hoping for our future, etc. And I will get these letters during the ceremony,
Okay.
and they will seal them and
Right.
put them inside a wine box with probably a Bordeaux or a Bourgogne.
Right.
That is from the year they've met.
Okay.
And we're nailing. This is why the audience is important. We're gonna nail together
Right.
the wine box,
Mhm.
and this will be to be open for their 10-year wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So
love
they can
that.
drink wine and
read
read
what
each
they
other.
read to each other.
Yeah,
10
this
years ago.
usually works like a charm.
Wow.
I have couples where they cheated. They did it for their 5-year anniversary.
Maybe they felt the wine was starting to age a little too much and it
That
was
was the
ready
excuse,
to be
yeah.
popped. Yeah. Very good. So
But
choose
yeah,
your wine wisely. right?
exactly. But yeah, this tends to work very well.
Wow.
But yeah, there's a million of other personalization. If you just
Right.
type on YouTube or Google wedding rituals, you will
Okay.
see many things. And I'm
Wow.
open to anyone. So
Right.
the Dove release was not my idea. So
Okay.
we've done it very happily. So
Wow. I think I kind of want to go back to my wedding now and do the wine thing, but maybe have one for the 5-year, the 10-year, the 20-year.
very good idea.
Just every 10 years, we'll have a wine box to open.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Very French. I love
Very
it.
French. It works.
Cool. Personally, what is your favorite part of an elopement?
My favorite part is really when they start to relax and getting to the moment. I have a special routine to do that when I start.
Okay.
This is not something that I think about me, but
Mhm.
feedback that I hear from many couples. I tend to have this capacity to make people at ease
Okay.
very quickly.
Mhm.
And after this routine, they tend to get into the moment
Right.
and relax.
Okay.
And
So just seeing that
yeah,
look
I
of
can
calm come over
literally,
them is
yeah, I can see
yeah.
that. And when this moment happens, the magic starts,
Mhm.
and they start to get into the real moment. And I
Right.
tell them to close their eyes. And if we're in a public space like that, I will tell them to just listen to the Paris traffic or the river flow and
Right.
just breathe a little bit. And after that, this looks like a meditation and looks like it's some guru thing, but
Right.
it works. And at some point, they start to read out their vows to each other. And this is where the magic starts for me,
Right.
because I am, taking a step back and just looking at them.
But you got them to that place of calm where they
Yes.
could really enjoy and take in the exchange of vows and everything. That's beautiful.
This is why I really take pride in what I do, because it doesn't look like a real job. Like,
Right.
to be honest,
Uh-huh.
I've been working like real jobs in my
Right.
life, and I know what it is. So what we're selling, and I think you're in this industry as well, is just memories
Mhm.
and time.
Right.
Weddings are often very emotional for the reasons that belong to the couples, which is the reasons why they're here today.
Right.
And maybe they miss someone who are not here, so we can say a few words about them. This is just about creating memories. That's all we do.
Right.
And of course, it's a wedding business and people's business, but
Right.
we're also in the memories business.
For sure.
I think it's very important to say that.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk about dress. Elopement's obviously much smaller, not as many eyes on the couple. Do you find that people tend not to go quite as all out on the dress and the suit, or is it just the same as a wedding? Or do they do things completely different since they have a little bit more freedom and aren't being watched and judged by everyone?
Yeah, no, that's two different worlds,
Right.
on my point of view. For weddings, people are like extravagant and like they tend to have this very big dress and suit.
Right.
This can happen as well on elopements, but yeah, most of the time it's very very simple.
Right.
We don't have this kind of wedding dress. Like maybe 30% of the time, where
Okay.
we have like brides have small dress, very
Right.
easier to move around with. Guys, they're just having a suit, like black most of the time, but
Right.
there's no rules. Once again,
course.
this is just a tendency a trend that I
Right.
see. But yeah, it's easier to move when you don't have a big dress.
Right. Just
I
it
would
kind of
say.
seems sticking with that stress-free theme.
Yes, that's
Right.
important,
Yeah.
because it's easier to move around. Of course, you can wear heels if you want, high heels even, but It's always better to have like comfortable shoes to move around during the photo shoot because
Right.
Paris is big,
Yeah.
and you still, even if you have a driver, you're still going to be around
A
moving,
little bit of
like
walking,
walking. So,
cobblestones. Yeah, it's
yeah,
still Europe.
I recommend this to be very simple. But
Mhm.
even with, we take this example all
Right.
the time, but even with this type of dress, which is much more like a classic wedding dress, you can still have great shots and
Right.
have a great time. But yeah, this is what I see.
Of course. So, how many hours should a couple plan for their elopement on average?
So besides the 4 a.m.
Of course.
alarm that you're
Right.
going to hear, um, from the moment that you are heading to the ceremony place,
Mhm.
ceremony spot, you probably want to have like 3 to 4 hours
Okay.
from the moment you just get out of the car
Mhm.
and come and join me for
Right.
the ceremony. Usually the ceremony is going to last around 30 to 40 minutes,
Okay.
depending on what you want.
Right.
And after that, you're going to take some shots.
Mhm.
You're going to hang around Paris, probably have a
Right.
breakfast with
course,
you
yeah.
and coffee and croissant.
Yeah. Get all the photographs.
Yes. So to count this, to account for the photo session, for
Mhm.
the ceremony, for the moving around Paris,
Right.
yeah, it would be 3 to 4 hours.
Okay. Perfect. And then finally, most importantly, if people are looking to have an elopement in Paris and want to book you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and get more familiar with your offerings?
Yeah, thank you. The best thing to do is going to my website.
Okay.
It's called pariscelebrant.com.
Okay.
Very easy to find.
Right.
And I also have an Instagram. I'm sure that you are going to share this.
Yeah, we're going to put all that in the comments
in the
or in
comments.
the caption for you guys below. So you can definitely find Naim there.
Yeah, I would be happy to hear about what you want and what you have in mind and make it happen for you.
Yeah, I think you're going to be in very, very good, capable hands with Naim.
Thank you, Doug. I
Cool.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Now that Naim has shared all of his valuable knowledge and information in planning an elopement and everything and what's involved in being an officiant, why don't we get to know Naim a little bit and find out who it is that you would be hiring to help you say I do. All right, Naim, so tell me a little bit about how long have you been in business, and is it just you, or do you have a team of officiants that work for you? Just a little bit about your business and how you operate.
Yeah, sure. So I started in between 2018 and 19,
Mhm.
right before the COVID.
Wow.
I launched my first year was COVID actually.
Nothing like a challenge.
Yeah, probably the best time in the universe to do that.
Right.
But yeah, I started around this time because I was traveling a lot, and
Mhm.
yeah, so I've been in business since then, and I'm working on my own
Okay.
for many years now.
Mhm.
Um, but I started to work with people, with a team.
Mhm.
This is something that comes very slowly, and
Right.
because I want to do it well.
Of course.
So for now, I would say that I am on my own,
Okay.
one person business.
So when they contact you and book with you, they're getting you.
Yes.
Okay.
And now that it's getting busy and busy, sometimes I can, if the date that the people want is full or
Right.
is already booked,
Uh-huh.
I will provide them with photos and videos of my other team
Okay.
members,
Right.
so they can choose
Mhm.
if they like the vibe or not. This is how it works
Of
most
course.
of the time. You
Right.
cannot showcase your pictures like you. Like
Right.
this is what I do. This
Yeah.
people have to have a conversation with the person and
100% agree.
see if they fit or not.
Yeah, it's super important.
Yes.
And then, are there any qualifications needed to be an officiant?
Well, it's just
Mhm.
the guts, I would say.
Ah.
You know, like nobody authorized me to do that
Right.
at all. I think you have to be some kind of character. It's a very special DNA that I
Right.
have, and I mean, it looks easy probably for other people, but this is you have to get into the idea of doing it.
Mhm.
You have to be very comfortable with public speaking. Obviously, I
Right.
think you have to be very confident. But besides that, there's no other qualifications. And
Yeah. So as far as your services, what exact services do you provide? And which are the most popular if you offer multiple, or is it mainly just the officiating of the ceremony?
at some point, I've had many couples who started to ask me if I could be their host for the night,
Ah, I see.
which is something that American people and
Yeah.
Russian people do.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Right.
I've
So
discovered
basically,
it.
emceeing the event for the rest of the evening. If it's
Yes.
so, this is probably more in terms of like weddings and everything.
Absolutely.
So not just elopement work, but moving. If you're having a full wedding,
Mhm.
then he can MC it after
Yeah,
officiating.
this is what I do also.
Right.
Yeah, staying the whole night, depending once again on
Mhm.
what they want, what the couple wants.
Right.
I'm not the kind of MC who will start to sing and make jokes. I'm much more like a
Right.
smooth,
Master of
organizer,
ceremonies,
yeah,
if you will.
introducing speeches
Right.
in a like memorable way,
Yeah.
this sort of thing. It's a very special
Okay.
service. So this is what I do: elopement ceremonies, wedding ceremonies,
Mhm.
and MC
And the
host for
MC.
the full evening.
Okay, great. Yeah, that seems like a logical transition from public speaking in front of the ceremony to the rest of the evening and
Yeah,
kind of controlling the flow of events. Yeah,
absolutely.
awesome. When you're not working, what do you enjoy doing the most?
Wow, this is a wide
Hmm.
questions. I really like. I'm a very curious person. I learn a lot. I love
Okay.
learning. I'm really curious.
Okay.
I've been learning languages since I'm a kid.
Wow.
I do a lot of sport.
So yeah, I think you were telling me earlier how many languages you speak.
Oh, I speak French, French, Spanish, a little bit of Italian, and I'm
Okay.
learning Russian.
Okay, so you can
And
officiate in French, English, Spanish, and Italian?
yes,
Okay,
I've done it.
all
Yeah,
right,
I've done it before.
brilliant.
Within the four language actually. And
All
it was
four
an
within one.
Italian groom,
Okay,
Tunisian French bride.
all right.
I say hi if they see me. And it was they were living in Spain, so
Okay, wow.
all the and they have many American friends. So
All right.
everybody had to be happy with that. That was
Wow.
quite a performance. We got published in Vogue for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. I guess it's important in your line of work to be that versatile with
Yes.
languages.
This is what you
Right.
sell, and this is what you provide.
Yeah, that's
People
great.
want you to be comfortable in many
Mhm.
languages. So yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very curious, and I do a lot of sports. I'm not a violent person at all,
Okay.
but I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Right.
which can be considered as violent sometimes. But
It's more for the just the
yeah,
physical
absolutely.
exercise nature.
I think
of
it's
it.
important. My cousin is a black belt,
Oh wow.
and he's been capturing me since
Okay.
2 years now. So I
Right.
feel very good when I do a lot of sport,
Oh.
and I read a lot.
Okay.
I know that you're an entrepreneur, and you're not only in
Constantly
the
learning is
photography,
necessary. Right.
videography business. I can tell by the way you're doing things that you're very curious as well.
Right.
So I'm very curious about entrepreneurship and
Mhm.
self-help development and all that. I don't
Right.
really like these terms, but this is something that I do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It's necessary in the self-employed world or
Yes.
entrepreneur world. And then finally, what would you say your top things to do in Paris? So they've come to Paris, they've eloped and everything. If you had to tell them the top three things that they should do before they leave Paris.
So I've been working in Spain, and
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
understand why I'm saying that.
Okay.
When I was in Spain, I've been working in this very beautiful in Mallorca,
Mhm.
in this place, and there was an Irish chef there,
Mhm.
Les, and Les was very French trained,
Mhm.
and he was always talking about France, and it was
Right.
like looked like he was more French than me. You know, it was
Right.
this hospitality background as well, French cuisine and all that. And we were talking a lot about Anthony Bourdain, which is
Ah.
a very famous chef, American chef that
Yeah.
we love. And for one of my birthday, he gifted me one of Anthony Bourdain's book.
Okay.
And in this book,
All right.
it was giving an advice to people when they are in Paris what they should do.
Ah.
And I suggest people just Google that because it became very famous. It's an excerpt. I will
Right.
try to quote it, but the best thing to do is to find it. It will say, just don't do anything.
Okay.
Just go around, get lost in Paris,
Mhm.
just have a coffee or two,
All right.
maybe get a beer, fall in love,
Uh-huh.
and see what works.
Okay.
So
So
this
it's
is what I would recommend to
follow
people.
the late great Anthony Bourdain of what to do in Paris, and you're pretty well covered.
Yes,
Nice.
I suggest people to read it.
Wow.
We consider him French.
Ah, is
Yes,
that right? Okay.
because being French is not a nationality or a
Right.
passport. It's a point of view and it's a lifestyle.
Okay.
And he was really um, picturing what it is that we love.
Right.
And this is the reason why we have so much
Mhm.
like literature and music and poetry and
Right.
gastronomy. We're not the best in the world, obviously, but
Pretty
yeah.
good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah. And I think I'll follow up with what you said from what I remember after my wedding. The honeymoon for us, which if you're in Paris, your honeymoon is just built in. The best thing about it was literally doing nothing. We scheduled a meal, a dinner, every evening at sunset because we were down in the Caribbean, and that was the only thing we had to worry about each day. So you're right. I think that is brilliant advice, and that now that all the stress and everything is done, you've said I do, you're married. just relax and enjoy yourselves and just take those moments in and the days after. It's brilliant advice, and I think it's a brilliant way to close. So thank you so much for being with
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thanks for the
It's
invitation.
been a pleasure. It's been a wealth of information. I think everyone's going to really enjoy hearing about all this. If you have questions, comments, please leave them below, and we'll do our best to answer each and every one of them. Till then, au revoir.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
Okay,
You
then we'll
guys,
cut into
that whole last section, I loved it. I was over here getting like goosebumps and almost teary-eyed.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain, relax. Yes, yes.
You did well, guys.
All
Wow.
right.